Almighty God, we thank you for this day and for the many blessings you give us, for the blessing that we all share of serving the public and the gift that we have of serving the public. And we ask you to help us to do that job decently and in order and always fairly and honestly. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have before you the agenda. I have a couple of additions to the agenda, if we might. Under unfinished business, we failed to vote on the resolution we gave to Mr. Sorrell, so I'd like to do 13A, resolution.
Mike's not up.
I did.
Walker's.
Okay,
I
so,
knocked on two, and it's not on.
yeah, okay. All right, 13B, ECUA litigation, transfer of files, also under unfinished, and 13C, enabling legislation and code issues. Does anyone else have anything else, Ms. Campbell?
I'm sorry, 13, will you repeat those for me?
A is resolution, B is litigation and transfer of files, and C is ECUA enabling legislation and codes.
Thank you. Yes, you had one, but you covered it.
There you go. Great minds, right. If no one else will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Mr. Johnson?
I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but we did have a revised 9F,
Thank you.
the resolution.
This is revised 9F, another resolution. So without objection, that will be added. If there are no others, please vote on the amended agenda. And it passes 4-0. There are no public hearings. Has anyone wished to speak to us in open forum? Okay. Presentations, we have our Recycle Star.
Just so you know, these are not working. So can you see the name up there?
I see your name.
Okay.
Yeah,
These,
I do.
the lights just aren't working. Okay.
Right.
Are these working? Test, 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 test. I don't think they're working.
Okay, if we can take a look at what's going on with that, and we'll try to bumble along. Can you hear me? Is my mic working? Okay. Okay.
Now ours works, so we can only do one at a time, apparently, is what the...
All right, well, I'll watch for your lights, because the lights do come on. We come now to the Recycle Star. Let me do this, and then we have a speaker who wishes. I don't have a list, do I, Ms. Harrell, of the people in the Recycle Star? And I'll let Ms. Campbell choose the winner this time. Thank you.
Come on, let me have somebody in District 1 that's good.
And it's number 14. That is Mr. Doug Mroch, M-R-O-C-H, who's going to be recognized for exemplary recycling. Congratulations, Mr. Mroch, and the cards and the big check will be in the mail. And if we might go back to the open forum, I do have a pink slip from Sarah Brake. Is it Sarah Brake? Yes. If you'll come up, and there's a button that says speak. If you will press the button, and then you are recognized. And is it B-R-A-K-E? Okay, good, thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you. My name's Sarah Brake, and I live at 545 Petro Circle, which is a collection of individually owned quadruplexes off of Massachusetts Avenue next to the Osceola Fire Station. I came today after a growing concern related to a specific maintenance request I submitted, which was initially requested on August 6th, 2019, and was resolved last Thursday relating to garbage service issues and request for a new recycling bin. I had, over the course of the 98 days that it took for it to be resolved, emailed ECUA on 7 separate occasions, and it was finally resolved. I came in and actually spoke to customer service last Wednesday. At the end of the day, I took off early from work to do that because my issue that I had reported was, one, I live in a neighborhood where my garbage can frequently disappears. And so I requested a replacement. They helped me determine which garbage can was mine. I located it, and it was to the point where it was unusable. The wheels were rusted into place, and so I could therefore not haul it in and out from my residence to the road without injuring myself when it was full because the wheels didn't turn. And I expressed this in my emails with ECUA customer service initially in August, sent a follow-up 6 weeks later in September, another follow-up on the first week of November, being promised my request has been received and that I should see resolution within 7 to 10 business days each time. My concern is that without my persistence and my actual follow-up in person with the wonderful customer service staff member that helped me, who helped escalate my request, and I ended up getting a new garbage can because my garbage can has since disappeared after being left at the road for 2 months without service, without being fixed so I could use it in and out. So I have to carry my garbage about 50 yards from where I live to the external location where our garbage is picked up. My concern is that it took 98 days for my request to be fulfilled. I had, at the same time as my garbage request, I submitted a request for a recycling bin, and that didn't so much bother me that it took so long because I understand there seems to be a backlog of recycling bins requested. And so that didn't bother me as much. But when I calculated based on my inability to bring my garbage can back and forth, of the last 6 months, I probably only got 4 months of garbage service where I could actually use my garbage can. What I would like to know is if there is some kind of system that can be updated or reviewed of how these maintenance requests are handled. Because the gentleman who helped me with customer service said it could be a week after a service is made before customer service gets an update that it was completed. And to me as a citizen, that is very concerning because, with my request, I was like, okay, 7 to 10 days, and then I didn't hear anything. So I gave it some extra time, hoping that it would be resolved, and then it wasn't. But I live in an area of the county where a lot of people are below the poverty line. And it concerns me that if I had to take the extra time and spend the extra effort, that I'm able to do that. What about the citizens in our community who don't have that time to take off of work and physically present themselves here to request assistance when they're not getting their answers via the online request?
It's unacceptable too, and I'm wondering if the update, see John, but I'm wondering if the updates we are doing are gonna help this situation. We're updating our entire IT system, our entire computer system, so I'm asking John to tell me if this.
Hi.
The short answer is yes.
I'm in District 2, I believe. I'm on the south side of Massachusetts.
So I knew it was in between.
Yeah, it's right on the line.
And I'll speak for myself and I'll speak for just all of our board members. Doesn't really matter what district you're in, but Miss Benson is your district rep. Always call her if you have any issues.
I actually copied her on the email when it was at 91 days. No, it didn't get done until the next week when I physically came in. The reason I will tell you that I did decide to speak and share my experience with you is that when I was speaking with the customer service rep, he could see in my record all of the previous times they had submitted the requests, and there was no record that they had been resolved or they had gone out to do the repair that I had requested.
So that is something that this new system we're putting in. So all I'm gonna say is bear with us and we'll.
Oh, I understand. And I understand this is most likely not typical. I've had other maintenance requests not related to garbage service that have been resolved within a day or even 2 days, but this just kind of was a glaring, extended period for resolution.
And we just apologize. Always call one of us, call the board member, call Lois in this case, but anybody that's listening out there. We hear everybody on these, computer issues, and we're working on it as fast as we can. It's just, it was so antiquated that we're having to rebuild it from the bottom up.
Thank you.
We had something similar came up where I questioned our sequence of events and our protocols, and it's always good to look at it. Mr. Brown is right there, and it would be a good idea for you to talk with him about your experience, good and bad, because it can help him set up protocols. And I will tell you, I know your street, and as I recall, it's hard, there's not a lot of room for all the trash cans to go from the various places, and that has been a frequent area where people have had problems. And, you know, it to some extent, and this is not to punt, there's a community design problem when people don't have a place to put their trash cans.
I know historically that neighborhood actually had an HOA.
Right.
But became defunct when the majority of the units became rentals in the late 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot.
And so it went from having
Right.
a dumpster to individual garbage service, which works for most of us. I know we have gotten a couple of notices from ECOA about not leaving our trash cans
Right.
at the road, but maybe we haven't gotten a new one, because it also blocks the traffic in
Right.
and out of that cul-de-sac. If people just leave their cans there for any period of time.
I had actually suggested that someone have an entrepreneurial kid, you know, volunteer to take these trash cans back, because it makes your neighborhood look better if the trash cans are brought in. But anyway, we'll bite this elephant one bite at a time. But if you will talk to Mr. Brown. And Dr. Walker, did you wish to say something? You're recognized.
Ms. Brake, I too am apologetic. I'm also upset. But I've been upset by this kind of thing dozens of times over the years. It's, people call in, well, to customer service. And one thing that happens, fellow board members, in case you don't know, is that customer service reps listen to a complaint like this, and they say that, yeah, we'll do something about it. But they don't have any power. The customer service rep who says that they will do something about it, we will do something about it, doesn't have any authority to actually go and take a can out there and deliver it or anything else. The people, and there seems to be, I've often used the term, a black hole that exists between customer service and sanitation in particular. And things are reported to customer service, and they fall into this black hole, and nobody knows who's to blame. At least I never find out that someone in particular is to blame. I spoke with Mr. Rudd about this. I have dozens of times over the years. I spoke with Mr. Sorrell about it a number of times, thinking that it needed to be taken to that level. And I but the problems like this still occur. I would really like to know in this particular case, what happened? Where did the message disappear to? Who was on whose watch did it disappear? Was it customer service to blame, or was it sanitation? I think we need to insist on answers about issues like this, because it has happened time after time after time after time after time. Especially, I hear about it especially since we expanded to the entire north end of the county with our sanitation program in January 2009. It's the only thing that really makes us look bad. The breakdowns in sanitation service and the failure for follow-up to occur when people complain to customer service about sanitation. One thing I've suggested in the past is that sanitation should have its own customer service reps working directly under sanitation, working in sanitation facilities right there, talking with the people above them and below them who are supposed to take care of the promises that are made by the customer service reps. That never got anywhere, that idea. But something needs to be done, and it needs to be more than us just saying we apologize. We need something corrected at the staff level on this. I love staff. I love our staff. I love everybody involved. But this is something at the staff level that needs to be fixed.
I agree wholeheartedly. 98 days is just too long. But I think that the breakdown is going to be in communication. And communication is the key to success in just about every aspect of life. And when customer service is not speaking to sanitation, computer-wise, back and forth, and there's a box, I mean, I'm going to relate it to my office. In my office, an order comes in. I can look any minute of any day in my queue and tell where the order is, who's got it and who's working on it and what's getting done. And I can say to my customer, this is how long it's going to take. I'm going to guarantee you 3-day turnaround. We got to be able to get there with sanitation and I believe, John's back there shaking his head yes, when we are done with this upgrade, that will happen. There will be a queue, am I right? Okay, so a queue will be there to know when the order comes in the door, who's got the order, and what they're doing with the order. And right now, you're exactly right, it's a black hole. So you just have, and unfortunately, you have to keep pecking, and I don't know how sometimes they go away in that black hole. I'd like to know too, but I do believe it's all communication. So, how long before we see this fully active? Yeah, it doesn't work. Oh.
Oh, there it goes. Probably another year and a half, and then it'll be as good as done. I know it's complicated. We just got done with finance, and that took us just over a year. We're now working on HR, payroll, asset management, and the final stage is the customer service part and utility billing. And then from the moment the customer calls, it gets entered in the computer system, and it'll go flow straight through sanitation. It'll get assigned to a driver or a responsible person. Anybody can look in the system and go, oh, that person has it, that person has it. This is the stage where it's at in resolution. And then at the end of it, it'll feed back, and the customer will be notified that the ticket was resolved. Mm-hmm.
Is there any way we can change what goes next and next and next?
It's already in process, and a lot of these are dependent on each other. We have to do the money first, right? And after the money comes the things, and after the things is what we do with the things. right? If we try to do it backwards, we'll be trying to do stuff to things that don't exist yet and try to pay for them with money that isn't there. So there's a logical flow to it, and unfortunately, the customer service part comes last because that's what we do to the things. So it's unfortunate, but it's not reversible or changeable.
I hate to say that, I hate to say I understand, but I understand
Yeah.
because when I put in this new software, it's Mac Daddy now, but I have never cussed more than I cussed for that 18 months. And it took 18 months and I have only 5 employees. So we have 40 vendors all over the United States, but I understand computers are my biggest nightmare. This is so bad, and I think the problem is that we waited too long. Not just like to go on and shout out Mr. McCorvey for pushing. I think of him every time this comes up, because he pushed for this to happen, and, I can't wait for this year to have to be over.
So, it was customer service long before we all networked on the computer. I think we need to have a protocol that says, this is the sequence of events. We have this long to do it, and let's have something that can kick in before this year and a half takes place, because, I mean, I think there are 4 people up here who have experienced this again and again, and that's, we intervene, but we hear stories like this, and so work as fast as you can, but meanwhile, we'll challenge Mr. Brown and Mr. Johnson to collaborate and come up with a better system in the interim.
Thank you. I would, while we have Mr. Doan here, I would like to ask, well, let me say first, just say, I don't think this is a technology problem. This dark hole between customer service and sanitation. Mr. Doan, is it a technology problem?
Problem, it's a technology solution. Right? There is a problem, there is a black hole, there are business processes that break down for whatever reason, and because it goes into a black hole and hopefully comes out of that black hole, what happens in the black hole is invisible. We have no idea, right? We have no idea where the breakdown is. Once you use technology to manage that business process, then you can see every step of the way, and you can say, oh, here is where it broke down. Here's the part where it failed. Let's address that. Let's figure out why. But right now, you don't really know who to go yell at, right? From here to here, it's just, I don't know. It is a problem, but technology can solve it. So it's not really a technology problem, but it's a technology solution to a problem.
I would like to point out that both sanitation and customer service are under Deputy Executive Director Rudd. I think it would be appropriate for the board and for the Executive Director to call on Mr. Rudd to get this problem corrected before a year and a half. Maybe a month and a half, maybe a week and a half, but it seems to me that there's something that could be done.
I think to clarify Dr. Walker's position, if it reaches the level of a motion, would be to task the current executive director, Mr. Johnson, with the directive.
I'm not sure if is the speaker on? Okay. Certainly, Ms. Brake, we need to find out what happened in your case, and we will do that. We'll investigate that. And I agree, we don't need to wait a year and a half. We've got to come to a solution. I will say that if I recall, one of the things I've learned here in the 4 days I've been in the job is that where we have had a contractor, a third party, handling our can replacement and repair, I believe we are bringing that in-house. so that we have direct control of it. And to me, I believe that will probably, going forward, if I'm correct, solve a lot of that. Then we won't have it won't go off and out of our hands. We'll have more direct control than we would with the contractor. But in any case, we need to find out what the specifics are of what went wrong in this particular case, and make sure that whatever we're doing day to day is efficient and responsive to the customer. So thank you for coming in.
I was just going to say, I welcome you to look at the work orders that are on my account from the last about 100 days now, since it was resolved last week. It's my understanding there were at least 5 for these 2 requests. That were 5 different work orders that I would hope that you'd be able to track. The other thing that I'd like to note is, though I did have services delivered and I got trash cans, I never heard anything further from ECUA, customer service, follow-up confirmation that it had been done from them, even after I asked for a phone call just to let me know that it was done. I came home and they were there. But that's definitely part of it as well, is closing the loop on customer requests.
That may be something, I'm always looking for John. That may be something, oh, there he is, that this system can do, is loop back to the end phone call, correct? Okay, because I know that, I'm very familiar with queues. I've worked with queues for 30 years, so I know that they will loop back around to, and what they do is that queue will tickle you, that it's yours to pick up and do whatever, and then it'll tickle the next person to pick up and do whatever, and then it'll shoot back to Gabe to say, oh, make that final phone call to her. One thing, we've been told several times that the problem is this can vendor, is it Otto? When is that over? Do we?
I think it's over.
Oh, okay. So we brought it in-house. Okay. Okay.
Thank you again, Ms. Brake. Obviously, it was something that needed to come, and thank you. Your problem was resolved, but by bringing it here, I hope we can do better for the next person, and hope it doesn't happen to you again. Maybe they'll flag your name, and when you put a request in, it'll happen. But thank you very much. Okay, now we go to the approval of the, Dr. Walker, sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Brake. Obviously, you touched on a nerve among the board members. I hope that there's a nerve at the staff level that it touches on. But thank you, and I would just advise you to mark your cans in some identifiable way so that other people would be hesitant to try to steal them and put them out in front of their own houses. Yeah.
So I suspect we'll hear from staff next month on this, how this has been resolved.
Yes, I think it would be nice to have a staff report. I don't think, as Mr. Beasley suggested, that we need a motion. I think this was pretty audible. Yeah. No more lights. The next item is approval of the minutes of the board meeting of October 22nd. Do we have a motion, Ms. Campbell? It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no more lights, please vote. And it passes 4-0. Is anybody working on our audio?
Yeah, because I don't really, that's not really good that we can, did you see that?
No.
I could see the votes coming up, 1, 2, 3, 4, so that I could see how other people were voting.
Ms. Harrell?
We would have to bring the system all the way down
Okay.
and bring it back up. That's up to you and to the office to do so. We apologize for this
Yeah.
inconvenience. We tried it before and it worked.
Is it
Yeah.
up there like that too?
It's just on this system.
turn these down, and we can't see back there, so I just don't like
Seeing other people's
seeing
votes.
how other people are voting as it's going on. I don't think that's
Yeah.
not good, so I just saw it when it was happening.
Why don't we do this? How long does it take to bring the system down?
5 minutes?
Maybe 10. I would say about 5.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we continue to conduct the meeting with voting by hand? There's nothing that's hugely controversial, rather than delay the meeting more. Let's just do the old-fashioned way. And you.
Thank you. The Citizen Advisory Committee met on November 12th at 3 p.m. Item J was granular activated carbon, CC 2019-27, the rejection of Oh, good. Rotopack automated side loader bodies and 2 diesel chassis with new rear loader bodies from the Sansom Equipment Company of Mobile, Alabama. And number 2, waive the normal purchasing procedures due to timing of availability and mechanical maintenance compatibility with our existing fleet, and approve the purchase of 9 2020 Autocar AXR 64 chassis with an 80 DGE Momentum fuel system and McNeilius Model 2848 ZR radius body at a per truck cost of $356,514 for a total cost of
$3,208,626 and direct staff to enter into a lessee purchase agreement for the 9 vehicles. The committee voted 8-0 in favor. Item L was award of bid for hydraulic oil. Recommendation was made by Mr. Perkins, seconded by Ms. Benson, that the board award the purchase of hydraulic oil to Davison Fuels and Oil, Inc. of Mobile, Alabama as the low bidder at an estimated annual cost of $75,000 for a period of 1 year with 2 optional 1-year renewals. The renewals will be at the same price, terms, and condition as mutually agreed upon by ECUA and Davison Fuels and Oil, Inc. Committee voted 8-0 in favor. Item I was award of purchase for a skid steer loader with forestry package. Recommendation made by Ms. Ben, seconded by Ms. Ritz, that the board waive normal purchasing guidelines and approve the purchase of a 2020 Kubota SVL95 2SFC skid steer with forestry package and from Coastal Machinery Company, Inc. of Pensacola, Florida, based on the Sourcewell contract at a total purchase price of $101,499.78, which is approved and available in the CIP project RA 805. The committee voted 8-0 in favor. I would like to move items F through M for approval, but I would like to say that the majority of the time we extend these contracts, we always get the same price. That is amazing to me in the climate that we're in with the economy. Everything's going up. And so for them to stay 3 years in a row with the same price is unbelievable. So that always impresses me. But
The items F through M.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please vote.
still wish that we'd gotten the garbage trucks with one side that opened.
It's saying 3-0. Someone hasn't voted.
You.
I tried.
Telling us again.
Oh, there we go. There you go. Huh. Okay. We come to the operational items. Item 9A is a notification of emergency purchase. We do not need to act on this. Does anyone want to discuss this item? If not, we will move to item 9B, contract extension, annual water well maintenance and repair. One of the extensions that Ms. Campbell had talked about. Is there a motion?
I move the recommendation.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote. Oh, Dr. Walker?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'd like to say that I think it's nice to see Griner Drilling Service doing well enough in the past year to merit continuation, extension of the contract. We sort of took a long shot on them by giving them the contract after having used one single company for over 20 years. And it's nice to see that it paid off by proving that they too are a viable company.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Okay, we're voting on item 9B. And it passes 4-0. Item 9C is Link Circle Subdivision System Extension Septic Tank Abatement Cost Participation. Is there a motion? We're looking at 9C. Mr. Perkins,
Move the recommendation.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Dr. Walker?
Is this the, in the River Gardens community
is.
that's
It
of
is.
special interest to Mr. Perkins?
Mr. Perkins?
All right. Thank you. That was just for my information.
This is a perfect use of our sewer expansion to incorporate these homes into an area where service is nearby. I wholly support it. Dr. Walker?
Yes, and I was, and if someone might seem like we're giving away money here? Well, number one, it's part of a policy that was adopted 20 years ago and has been used before several times. So it would seem to be an accepted policy, a policy in place. And also, the cost, per unit cost was under $6,000. And when we do a sewer expansion program, it almost always is $10,000 or well over it. So this is an effective, efficient use of our dollars.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell?
Sewer abatement is good. There's absolutely nothing you can say, but it's good for this community surrounded by water, so I'm
Yeah.
wholeheartily always for that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mr.
and this, you know, we set this policy and the criteria we were based on where, you know, we wanted to protect area surface waters, which it does. It goes into the Scambia River. There's a creek down there. We wanted to protect wellhead protection areas, anywhere where it might impact a drinking water well, and then public health and safety were the criteria. And the person that was insisted upon this and got it developed probably 25 years ago was Larry Walker. He was the one that really said, like, we really need to do something on septic tank abatement. So a lot of times, you know, we get used to something and forget about where it originated from, but I appreciate your leadership on that many years ago.
It's nice to have institutional memory on the board, too, because that matters. Particularly when what?
Yes, it is nice to have institutional memory, especially when it's positive.
Yes, yes.
Some things that I'm glad are forgotten.
Okay, I think we are ready to vote, are we not, on item 9C?
I have turned mine down just because I don't want to see how everybody,
I just don't pay attention. Put my blinders on.
take my glasses off.
Yeah, right. We're missing somebody. There we go. And it passes 4-0. The next is a budget amendment, fiscal year end 2019, all funds. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached budget amendment Exhibit A and the not to exceed amounts for the water and wastewater systems, the sanitations, and the materials recycling facility for fiscal year 2019. And this is a rather routine matter. Do you want to speak to it, Ms. Sheldon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Yes, this is a routine budget amendment that we ask for at the end. This brings us to the end of our fiscal 2019. And the purpose of the budget amendment is to recognize either additional or lower revenues than we expected and to appropriate that on the uses side so that we can true up our budget.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion? Anyone? Mr. Perkins?
Move approval.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions for Ms. Shelton? You might want to stay here for the next item. Please vote. And it passes 4-0. The next item is 9E, which is a budget amendment fiscal year 2020 related to project encumbrances. And this is a little different. If you want to outline this for us, Ms. Sheldon.
Okay, sure. This is a different budget amendment. We haven't brought this to you before. This is for fiscal 2020. And it's simply bringing forward the outstanding project encumbrances from the prior year. With our new Tyler system, our new financial system, we're going to be doing budget checking on all of the expenses, which we didn't have in the old system. So in order for us to pay on these existing contracts and encumbrances, we need to roll forward these encumbrances so that they're, in the system along with the available budget that has been budgeted. CIP carries forward from year to year to year. In the past, we haven't brought forward those budget amounts because we didn't have to worry about budget checking on the CIP. But now going forward, we're going to need to do that. So we'd like to bring forward the budget with these projects and the encumbrances so we don't run into eating into the 2020 CIP budget that you approved as part of the operating budget. If we don't bring forward these budgets, then we will run into a stumbling block towards the middle of the year and be using our current year CIP budget for previous year CIP projects. So I don't know if that helps or
Well,
not, but
Well, I think this is in the spirit of what we had requested, and we're getting the updates from you so that we sort of keep apprised of what's going on and see if any red flags. I was not familiar with the Tyler Munis system. It sounds like something I would like. What precipitated our using this?
well, this is part of the new ERP system. This was the first phase of the ERP. So the financials was the first phase, which was a general ledger, accounts payable, budgeting, CIP, anything that's hitting our general ledger. So we implemented that as the first phase. And so coming up for fiscal 2021, we'll be doing our budgeting within Tyler instead of the AS400 or SunGuard, which was the old system.
Right.
And so we are fully go live on the Tyler system for financials. And there's a lot of new features in Tyler that we're able to utilize. And one of the nice things is the budget checking. So if we try to use an expense account that has no budget, then the end user will have to do a budget transfer right then and there before we can even charge something to that expense line item. There's electronic workflow for all the approvals for invoices, purchase orders, requisitions, so a lot less paper is having to change hands. It's much more streamlined. And you were talking before about these queues that people can get to say, I put in that requisition, what's the status of it? They can go right there on their workstation and see whose level of approval it is at, whose desk it's sitting on, and find out what's happening with it. And so they can track that all the way through and see when it's converted to a PO. And the same thing with an invoice. If they're looking for a vendor payment, they can inquire on that either by vendor or by invoice and see if it's been paid or what the due date, if it's been put in, if there's a due date, what check run it's going to come off on. And so they can let their vendor know if the vendor is asking a question. So there's a lot more ability for the end user to see the data than there has been in the past.
Well, I think we all agree, RIP, SunGuard, it's nice to have something more state-of-the-art.
We're really enjoying it. It has streamlined a lot of things. Now, there's been a learning curve. Finance is still learning a lot of things about it, so, but we're getting there.
Thank you. We have a lot of lights, so stay where you are. Ms. Campbell?
Okay.
I want to commend you for switching over and your staff. I know how difficult it is to move to a new system, but I'm sure at the end of 6 months, they will be surprised at how wonderful it makes their job and how much easier it makes their job. I know when I've been paperless, and I know y'all have heard this since 1999, and when we first went to 3 screens, everybody was like, I'm not doing that, I can't do that. And if I tried to take one screen away from somebody right now, they would smack my hands. I mean, they would not let me take that one screen. But I work with a lot of companies that are still using one screen and, just doing it the old-fashioned way. And a lot of them are going out of business. I saw a very large law firm go out of business this year. And I think that may be it. You don't change. Sometimes you get eaten. So I commend your staff. I know it's hard, but I think this is where we wanted to go with this new system, and it's nice to know it's already working this well.
Mr. Johnson?
I'll just say that Tyler Munis, I mean, the AS400 system, the SunGuard system, was here forever.
Yes.
And this was a major decision of the organization. I know when I was still here, we spent months looking at various proposals from not Tyler and We probably got 10 or 12 proposals, narrowed it down to 3, spent weeks talking to folks to try to make a decision and pick the right one that we thought would work the best in the long run. The implementation on this is going on for at least another couple years. When you talk to folks that do like utility billing and payroll and then you get into asset management and all that, and to try to tie it all together through one system, certainly we can all see the long-term benefit, but we're just starting. It's good that finance is now up and running, and things like this are coming up. And the only other thing I'll say is CIP doesn't know fiscal year boundaries, so that's why we're bringing this item right here. So,
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. No other lights?
Do we,
Ms. Campbell?
do we move staff recommendation?
I don't think we have. Would you like to?
Yes, I would.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Please vote. What's fun to stretch your brain and do a new system?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item, 9F, is adoption of Resolution 19-10, a resolution of the Emerald Coast Utilities providing for notice and public hearing for preliminary rate-setting resolution providing for notice and public hearing concerning the proposed establishment of revised sanitation service charges for Santa Rosa County, Florida. And actually, we have a substitute that also included the town of Jay as well. So we're doing this, the substitute resolution. Is there a motion? Dr. Walker?
Yes, I make the motion to approve resolution number 19-10
Is there a
with
second?
including the Exhibit A.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Ms. Campbell?
Before anybody gets, Santa Rosa's cheaper than us, it all goes back to the tipping fee, so, just want to make sure our public knows that we're.
Right. Dr. Walker?
I'm sorry.
Seeing no more lights, please vote. There we go. And it passes 4-0. That concludes the operational items. The next is the budget report. Did you have anything further to do on the budget report, Ms. Sheldon?
I will just say that this is the September 30, 2019 preliminary, well, I've called it preliminary quarterly financial, but basically it's the end of the year. It is unaudited, so we're still tweaking the numbers a little bit with accruals and things like that. But this will give you a good indication about where we're going to end up for the end of the fiscal year. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Any questions?
No?
Currently
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Sheldon. The Executive Director's report, Mr. Johnson.
none to report right now.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you again for saying yes. Attorney's report, Mr. Beasley.
I have no further formal report other than to, again, mention that next week is traditionally a slow week in my office. I'm going to be working on the ECUA code revisions and also to the enactment statute or enabling statute, and try to get back a red line list to everyone. If you have any thoughts, concerns, things that have come to your mind over the past on the revisions, just shoot me an email so that we can put it into our work group.
Mr. Perkins?
Is there I had, back in the day, had gotten a copy of the code, and I'm sure I have it at the house. It's a hard copy, but do we have a copy of it on a computer file that we can send to each of the board members so we can look that over?
Is it on it should be on our website, shouldn't it? Is it on our website?
The entire code.
I
Or
couldn't find it.
If so, can we try to get that to the board members?
We will get that to each board member.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale.
Ms. Perkins? Oh, Dr. Walker?
with reference to the outdated nature of this code and the statute, I would like to mention that after our discussion last month or whenever it was about about the title that we would give to our appointee, I think there was talk about assistant deputy director. Was that the term that was in the code? Afterwards, Mr. Haig pointed out to me that the last assistant director assistant executive director of ECUA was a gentleman named Jesse Moffitt, whom probably none of you remember. Mr. Johnson does, I expect. Kind. But he left us. He was an engineer. He left us and went to somewhere in Virginia, as I recall, or North Carolina, one or the other. But that was 30, no, well, it was a long time ago. His name was Jesse Moffitt.
Mr. Haig started here when he was 13. He's getting ready to retire now. So.
We didn't break the labor laws.
Okay, and that concludes your report, Mr. Beasley?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Item 13A, we had a resolution which I read to Mr. Sorrell, which we did not officially adopt, so if someone will move that
Move the
resolution.
resolution.
Is there a second? Okay.
Second.
Please vote. And it passes 4-0. Item 13B, I understand that some of the files, the litigation files, have still not been transferred to Mr. Beasley, and I understand that he is, in this interim period that he has taken over, he feels very confident that he can handle ECUA's work. So I think it would be good to have a motion that the remaining files be transferred to Mr. Beasley's office.
I'd like to make a motion that we transfer all of the files over to our new attorney, Mr. Robert Beasley.
Is there a second?
I'll second, but I have a question.
Sure.
Are there not one or more cases or matters which Mr. Odom is still handling for us?
Let's let Mr. Beasley respond to that, if you don't mind.
There are one or more matters which Mr. Odom continues to handle as counsel for ECUA. There are one or more cases that he still remains as counsel. During the transition, there was a great effort in identifying what I originally called the universe of cases, and inside of cases also sub-matters, which would be kind of work assignment matters, research projects, and so forth. There was an allocation from the start. Some of the allocation depended on whether our firm had a conflict. There was a case, the new case, that our firm had a conflict originally. That case was resolved by settlement last board meeting. None of the remaining cases Mr. Odom handles are cases which we would have any kind of conflict in taking over representation. And there was kind of a stepping in process to gradually move the cases over from Mr. Odom's office to my office. And I think that's where the directive is now, is to complete that process.
Are there cases where it would make sense from a cost point of view or just a learning curve point of view where Mr. Odom should continue to maintain those, follow those cases, whatever one does? Or do you think it would be appropriate now to move all of them wholesale to you?
And I think I was asked this question actually previously a few meetings ago, and my answer was there's not a case pending with the ECUA that Mr. Odom handles or otherwise that we couldn't very quickly come into and step right into. There is always some learning to do on a file, but the types of cases that are there are not so complex that or so voluminous in their volume that it would cost the ECUA in any way for us to come on board.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further discussion, please vote. Mr. Perkins?
Well, now, there may be some cases where you will still collaborate with him. Is that correct? Where you know, he's got a great deal of institutional knowledge, so might there be cases where you would, you know, take over the case, but have him, you know, kind of as a partner or a consultant or something, providing, you know, institutional knowledge and kind of where he's argued before certain judges and stuff on it. Some of the cases have been going on for years, so would some of that still go on?
Mr. Beasley?
To date, the relationship has worked very well with respect to collaboration and checking with Mr. Odom on any matters. When you take over a case, the way the cases work is there's a great deal of docket information to allow you to come up to speed on the face of the case. And then, of course, you would want to have some type of communication about the underlying strategy, those things that aren't apparent on the papers. We've been able to successfully do that on all of the cases so far. And Mr. Odom has made himself available either to Mr. Sorrell or myself to tap into that historical fund of knowledge. I would say that his greatest benefit of his historical knowledge is really not about the cases, but more about the operational issues of ECUA, some of the engineering issues that we've encountered. There are certainly issues that we see time and time again, and it's nice to tap into someone who says, well, last time we dealt with it this way. And so it's more of the everyday issues that I think his fund of knowledge really helps the ECUA in continuing to be able to tap into that.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to clear the boards in, or I guess we can go ahead and vote. And it passes 4-0. And thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Perkins. I mean, we certainly don't want to sever that relationship and would anticipate that it would go forward with a collaborative spirit. Item 13C. You know, we have all fielded questions. We have all agonized about this vacancy on District 3. And despite our best efforts, nothing seems to be getting unstuck. There seems to be motion toward it, and then it goes away. I am aware that other bodies have ways of filling vacancies particularly if they fall after the halfway point in a term. Often the body can make an appointment from within their ranks until such time as the next election. We had talked about that, and apparently our enabling legislation does not permit that. But you can change the legislation, and I think this would be a good time to do that. I think we have a number of code revisions that we want to do, and we could wrap it into a package that would include a different method for filling vacancies. This has been very unfair to the people of District 3, and I think we need to learn from this, and I believe the delegation would be sympathetic. They, I think, are as frustrated as we are. So I would suggest we ask our attorney to develop language to change the way an appointment is made after the midterm of a member's term, and open that up for your discussion. Dr. Walker?
You say after the midterm, is there a current provision for
It is.
an election at the midterm?
Yes, if less than half of the term has expired, it triggers a special election.
Okay. Do you have a suggestion as to what we might do after the midterm?
We can look to other bodies. I know that the city council used to make an appointment themselves, which I think other bodies do as well. Perhaps we could add that to Mr. Beasley's research to find other models for that appointment. Clearly, this one has not worked out well, so, you know. Do you mind wrapping that into your research, Mr. Beasley?
No problem. And there are other models. Other municipalities have scenarios for vacancies, and what I would like to do is present back to the board a series of vacancy scenarios. For instance, you could have a vacancy by reason of death of the board member,
Right.
which would be a special vacancy scenario. So when the legislature does enactment, and we're talking about Section 4B of the enacting statute and the enabling statute, maybe you send up several possibilities, or maybe send up the more narrow of the possibilities. And so what I'd like to do is give you some alternatives as seen in other examples, and then just try to decide which vacancy and how you want the mechanism to fill it would be.
Okay. And it would come to us next month, because the session starts in January this year. It's an early session. So do you think you can have it for our December meeting?
As you earlier said, I'm your employee, so yes, it will be here for your December meeting.
Okay. Mr. Perkins?
In some ways, that makes sense. I mean, it's a unique situation. If it wasn't for an appointment not being made this time, it wouldn't be a problem. And so I don't know exactly where the problem lays, but it's kind of a unique situation. But there's an old saying that nobody's safe when the legislature's in session. And one thing that concerns me about politics in general and government in a larger aspect, and it's really bugged me a lot lately, is the corrosive influence of special interest, big PAC, dark money committees contributing to political campaigns and kind of seizing power and making it where that, the regular citizens have no voice, or their voice is rarely, taken into effect with the same level that these special interests are. And we've always had special interests. It's something that we've lived with over the years, but it's getting to where now the money is hidden. I think every supervisor of election in the state should have a link to all the committees and all the PACs where all the money is at all levels, and where you could go and link it on the supervisor of elections website, because the people have a right to know. But what we're finding is not in just political races, but in issues, that there's a lot of kind of dark money that goes into these things that allows certain special interests to have a lot more control over what happens at the expense of the general public. And so, while I think it might be worth going to the legislature to address this one issue, there's a side of me that thinks, are we going to cause more harm than good by doing that? So I think that's something we should all think about. I mean, it doesn't hurt to compile what we'd like to see and look at it and weigh the risk and decide whether we want to do that or not. But I think we shouldn't be naive that if we, there's a certain deadline in January where local bills have to be before the legislature. If we, if we get something in there and on there, it can be amended or changed any way people want. And we've always done what we think is right by the citizens, but that has, encumbered us with some powerful special interests that have a lot of influence in the legislature that could, hamper our ability to do our job for the ratepayers. And so I think that's something that we need to think about when we look at this.
Sure. And I hear you very clearly. And local bills are handled a little differently, which is kind of the good news. And we would certainly have to talk to our delegation. I got into politics by an appointment by the city council when there was a vacancy. And it was a great thing, a great way to be introduced to a legislative body, because I came in with the full support of everybody on that council. They had a vested interest in me being successful as a council member. And it affected the collegiality. It was a really positive experience. And I saw that again and again, because many councilmen came in by appointment. That even happened here. I was appointed to fill a vacancy. And I sensed from this board a great collegiality, a willingness to mentor, obviously in the sunshine. But if it works, and I guess I'm naive, but it can be very effective. You don't want suddenly powerful interests to weigh in on this. Unfortunately, I fear that's the way it is in politics today. And
it used to be with local bills that the local delegation had to be unanimous in deciding what they wanted. So there was a very low chance of a bad local bill
Right.
getting through, because if there wasn't, you know, a great deal of agreement among the local members, then it didn't go anywhere. Well, nowadays that's kind of changed, and you know, it's not the case, and so who knows what could happen. But there are changes that need to be made, and I think it's our responsibility to see, you know, what would benefit the community by updating that legislation and going from there.
And, you know, most legislation springs from a problem that was perceived, and obviously this vacancy has been a problem, and yes, Ms. Campbell?
And I don't think that this board ever takes legislation, you know, we've never done this before. And
Right.
the only reason that we're doing it this time is because that it has become a problem. And that's our job as board members to the citizens, is to make sure that this, because this has not happened to us, it's happened to them. I
Right.
mean,
Precisely.
thank God we haven't had but one 2-2 vote, and so it hasn't really hurt the citizens, but it could have hurt the citizens a lot, so I agree wholeheartedly that.
And even if there have not been split votes, there's a voice that hasn't been heard.
That's right.
You know, so, Dr. Walker?
Actually, appointment by the governor worked pretty well when you were appointed,
Thank you.
and has turned out well over time, certainly.
I'm flattered.
But it's also worthy of noting, think about that, this is probably the only time there'll ever be an ECUA board vacancy due to death, when the governor will refuse to act on it for a year or longer. It's not likely that any other governor is going to be so cavalier about an appointment. So it could be argued that we really don't need to change this, because it may never be a problem again. But we can talk about it next month.
Sure, we'll put it on the agenda. I see no more lights. We come now to new business. No one entered anything for new business. Does anyone have anything to add under new business? Board communications, Ms. Campbell?
So it's that time of year that we are thankful, and I'd just like to say that I'm thankful for this board and the staff. It's been a very tough year on everyone, I think. Thank you to Mr. Johnson for agreeing to come back and take that seat for as long as it takes. Thank you for Mr. Beasley for stepping in and taking over our litigation and all of our files. And thank you to this board for serving during a very, very, not difficult, but a very different and trying year, and doing so graciously. And always thanks to the staff for doing what they've done. I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. I have here a card from Mr. Sorrell thanking us for the gift we gave him as his parting gift. So I'll pass that down, and I echo Ms. Campbell. I wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving full of food, family, and friendship. Maybe not so much food anymore, but I hope it will be a wonderful holiday. And we have another open forum, don't we? Does anyone wish to? Okay, then, thank you all. We are adjourned.